to worship just anywhere. And here we find Micah also contradicting that, because he sets aside a part of his house and makes a shrine, which was in contradiction to that commandment. And then the third one is from Exodus 40:13 and to 15, which God had commanded that a priest must be consecrated from the direct line of Aaron. And here we find that Micah chooses one of his sons and makes him to become a priest in his house. So Micah contradicted those three guidelines that had been put in place by God to guide his worship. Now, despite having the knowledge of the true worship, Micah dedicated to start his own way of worshiping God of Israel. And I've said that this one seems to be appealing to people who want independence in terms of worship. They want to bring in other things that are appealing to them and use them to worship God. And by doing so, I think that God will be happy with them. He decided to do things his way instead of God's way. Next, we find that Micah finds a wayward Levite whom he hires. So if you read that chapter 17, from chapter 8, from verse 7, I think you can read. No, Judges 17, verse 7. Yes.
17:7 says, "And there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there."
Okay, maybe I can explain that. We find that there is a man here coming from the lineage of the people who are set aside by God as a Levite. And this man is departing from his home. You can continue.
And the man departed out of the city from Bethlehem, Judah, Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah as he journeyed. And Micah said unto him, Whence comest thou? And he said unto him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I go to sojourn where I may find a place. Verse 10, And Micah said unto him, Dwell with me, and be unto me a father and a priest, and I will give thee 10 shekels of silver by the year, and a suit of apparel, and thy victuals. So the Levite went in. Verse 11, And the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man was unto him as one of his sons. Verse 12, And Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Verse 13, Then said Micah, Now know I that the Lord will do me good, seeing I have a Levite to my priest.
Thank you. Here we find that there is a young Levite who wanders away from the city where he was born, and then goes and finds Micah. we find that Micah asks about his whereabouts, and he finds out that he's a Levite. And then he invites him that he should work for him. I'm sure that all of us know the roles that were set aside for Levites. They were special people to God, and they were purely set aside for his service. But here, we see this young Levite agreeing to be hired by a man. So he becomes a priest of a home, serving a father, his children maybe, and the wife. This is Micah. And what is he being given in turn? A small amount of money, and then a room and some clothes. I think that tells you something. All of us are called to serve in the house of God, and we are set aside for his work. But in life, there comes a times whereby we are tempted